When most people start to invest in the stock market, a big part of what drives them in comes from topics like how much money you'd have if you invested $1,000 into Nvidia X amount of years ago, where a $1,000 investment in Nvidia 10 years ago has grown by 22,749% and would be worth roughly $228,000 by today. In fact, CNBC calculated how much a $10,000 investment made it 25 years ago into the top 10 companies listed below and how it would have done, where you can see Nvidia would have turned $10,000 into roughly $32 million. Monster would have been $11 million, with many others that easily would have turned $10,000 into millions of dollars that you wouldn't even think of. And not to mention, but when most hear investors like Warren Buffett that heavily invest in individual stocks like Apple, American Express, Bank of America, or Coca-Cola, that has led his net worth to skyrocket after all the years of investing into individual stocks, and knowing that you're very likely to have optimism about buying individual stocks because it's worked out for others. And so while most think that individual stocks will carry you into the riches, in reality there is significant risk associated that you have to be aware of, and you're not Warren Buffett. In fact, there's a reason Warren Buffett has famously said, if you aren't thinking about owning a stock for 10 years, don't even think about owning it for 10 minutes. In other words, realize that every company Warren Buffett invests into, he has done heavy research to fully understand the underlying business, and he has great patience for every company that he believes in and for it to grow in value over time. All in all, owning individual stocks definitely has the right time and place for most portfolios, but I have to say before we get started, my name is Danny Sully. I run the company InvestLane, where our mission is to help others learn how to save and invest wisely to build lasting wealth. And all I ask is that if you do find value in this video, that you consider hitting the like, subscribe, and notifications button for future content like this. So knowing that, to get straight to it, let's first go over the pros and cons of investing into individual stocks. Alright, so the first one is an obvious one, and that is the potential for a very high return that you can get from picking the right company at the right time. For example, a company like Nvidia has grown over 1,100% over the past 5 years. AMD was 522%, Google was 214%, Apple grew 143%, or even Tesla that was 110% in the past 5 years. All of those you've likely heard of, and they've all beaten the stock market benchmark that is typically referred to as the S&P 500, where you can see the index has gone up 79% over the past 5 years. So even some of the most known and largest companies in the market, they've been able to outperform the standard US stock market benchmark. And if you were to narrow your individual stock selection to even smaller companies, the potential return could be even higher. But looking at the cons now, that potential return that you could receive is also what leads to significantly higher downside risk. In fact, data shows that over a 5-year period, only about 35% of companies survive and outperform the market, and the 10-year data shows that number is even lower at almost 29%, and then over a 20-year period, only about a fifth of companies survive and outperform the market. So even if you think that the couple of stocks you own are going to carry you into the riches, realize that even some of the largest companies like WeWork, that was once valued at $47 billion, it went bankrupt. The Lehman Brothers also collapsed, where the firm filed for bankruptcy with $600 billion in assets. We also have Blockbuster and then GM in 2009, who filed with $78.7 billion in losses, and the US government had to step in with almost a $50 billion bailout to keep the company from disappearing. Now, I mention all this because no one knows what the future holds, and if you put all your savings into a small uprising AI company that you have the hope that it will become the next Nvidia, I wish your retirement the best. But aside from the potential risk and reward that's associated, something nice about owning individual stocks is that you get full control over how exactly you want to build your portfolio. You see, unlike ETFs that are short for exchange traded funds that either track a stock market index or they're actively managed by professionals, with individual stocks, you get to decide the exact exposure that you want, when you want to buy or sell the companies you own, and you can truly think of yourself as a part owner of the company's performance. But the trade-off there is that that control doesn't guarantee better results, and you may even have the confidence to go out and buy numerous stocks as your entire portfolio. The problem there is that with that, studies have come out to show that a blindfolded monkey throwing darts at a financial newspaper could select a portfolio that would do just as well as ones carefully selected by experts. And while I'm on it, heavily investing in individual stocks also brings an emotional side to investing, which is likely driven from the bigger ups and downs that you're going to see because they're going to be more volatile. And so if you are one that's constantly chasing your investments, those swings may really tempt you to react off of short-term news that typically leads many investors into a cycle of continuously buying and selling stocks. So because of this reason alone, Warren Buffett's closest business partner, Charlie Munger, has come out to say the big money is not in the buying or selling, but in the waiting. All in all, individual stocks with the potential for a very high return definitely have their time and place, but the higher risk, volatility, and emotional state that they can bring make them a tool that you have to be very cautious with as you approach them. And so before I go over how to use individual stocks and ETFs together, let's first quickly go over the pros and cons of investing into ETFs. Now, the first big difference that many underestimate is that ETFs offer instant diversification. You see, with one ETF, you can get instant exposure to hundreds to thousands of different investments all within one purchase. So instead of trying to pick the right companies that could potentially outperform the market, with ETFs, you're now able to put your money into any specific sector or market index that you believe in. And so by doing this, it removes a ton of the risk when compared to strictly owning individual stocks on your own. But that reduced risk is now what prevents ETFs from having the opportunity to massively outperform the market like Nvidia or any other specific companies that have done really well over the years. Now don't get me wrong, there are many solid ETFs that offer the ability to achieve really strong returns over time, and some have even done better than the S&P 500 recently, like QQQ that has averaged 121% over the past 5 years, or even SMH that has grown 384% when compared to the S&P 500 that I mentioned earlier that was 79%. So while that's not like the top stocks like Nvidia or AMD that have even higher returns, a huge pro to ETF investing is that they offer simplicity. You see, with ETFs, you don't need to constantly research and stay up to date with a particular company or even worry that one of the companies in your portfolio is going to crash. ETFs as a whole are made to simply provide strong diversification so that you can actually stick with them long term and not overthink your decisions where you would likely end up having regrets like many do when they invest into individual stocks. But a downside here, unlike individual stocks, is that you give up full control on exactly what you truly own. And on top of that, besides a couple of ETFs like BNY's BKLC, almost all ETFs have an annual expense to own them, which is known as the expense ratio, where a popular fund like Vanguard's S&P 500 ETF VOO has a 0.03% expense ratio, and all that means is that for every $10,000 that you invest, it would cost you $3 per year to own it. And do know that those fees are automatically going to be taken out of your investment over time. It's not something that you have to pay separately. Which, if you're wondering why there's a fee, that is because ETFs provide the ability to either passively track a stock market index like the S&P 500, that is the most popular example, or they are actively managed to potentially provide specific goals like trying to outperform the market or to give you a high monthly income like JP Morgan's ETF JPI that is a 0.35% expense ratio, or the alternative from NEOS that is more tax friendly that is SPYI but now has a 0.68% expense ratio. And even though that may sound like a con when compared to individual stocks, with the right ETFs, typically referred to as low-cost index funds like the $3 per year fee that I mentioned with VOO, that is a super low cost for what you get out of it, and to me, that actually makes the cost for the right ETFs that you pick by far worth it. But the advantage here is that emotionally, you don't have to manage your own portfolio yourself, so you're not relying on only a few companies to perform well. You're also not having to put in as much time or energy yourself, and what's even nicer is that you'd get more stability with your savings, so you're less likely to have large swings and want to panic sell during market downturns. Which my personal favorite part of all is that historically, broad market ETFs like the S&P 500, they have proven to do very well over time, which is why they're typically referred to as a major source to wealth building, especially to gaining the confidence to actually reach a successful retirement one day, and in order to actually build up enough funds to last the rest of your life. And so knowing that, a fun fact for you is that since 1957, the S&P 500 has delivered an average annual return of 10.51%, and when adjusted for inflation, that real return ends up being 6.64%. That alone is why so many wealthy and successful investors as a whole use the S&P 500 as the foundation to their investment portfolio, and it's why Warren Buffett said the best thing to do is buy 90% in an S&P 500 index fund. So all in all with ETFs, you can easily gain great diversification allocation in a super simple and easy way to do so, and with the right ones, they have historically done very well over time for investors, and they could come at a super low cost. But when compared to individual stocks, with ETFs, you sacrifice some of that control and the potential for extremely high returns. Alright, so knowing that about individual stocks and ETFs, let's now go over how to use both together. Now, you can very well make a simple portfolio of just ETFs, but for many that want the potential for a higher upside, including stocks on your own that you personally believe in most could actually make a really strong portfolio when used together properly. And so the way you go about building this portfolio depends entirely on your situation and beliefs, but the guideline that I typically stay between and recommend for most is to have at most 10 to 15% of your entire portfolio aimed toward individual stocks, where I personally suggest with any individual companies that you buy on your own, at most to keep that allocation under 5% each. And so with that, that means that a solid 85 to 90% should be in ETFs. Which, for those curious, why not talk about mutual funds or even mention them so far in this video if you know what that is? The reason is that they are known to be slightly less tax efficient overall with their structure, and due to that, ETFs have been on the rise recently, especially for those that are actively managed. By the way, if you are interested in content like this, I've made a ton of videos on this topic and many other relevant ones like this that I think you'll find great value from, and I'll have those linked in the description below if you want to check them out after this video. Now, like I said, ETFs should really serve as the foundation to your investment portfolio, and that doesn't mean to go YOLO on the semiconductor ETF SMH that's at crazy all-time highs. And if anything, depending on your risk tolerance, top categories to build off of as the foundation could be either growth-oriented, where I view QQQ, QQQM, SCHG, and VUG as top options, alongside core with the S&P 500 like VOO, IVV, SPY, or SPYM, and then for those seeking a dividend income, to be with a fund like SCHD or DGRO as top options, which of course entirely depends on what you're looking for. Now, I'm not here trying to tell you how to invest, you have to make your own financial decisions, but I really just want to emphasize how a small portion of individual stocks can very well be worth it, since you can target the ideal goals that you are looking for and even benefit from a potential upside. So say you want extreme growth potential, you may buy an AI stock right now that you're extremely interested in something like Palantir, or if you're looking for a dividend income from a company that is very likely to live through any recession, Procter & Gamble may be at the top of your list. Those are just simple examples, but the biggest thing to take away that most investors get wrong, especially inexperienced investors, is thinking that individual stocks should be your entire portfolio. You see, if you flip the allocation and instead do say 90% in stocks and 10% in ETFs, you're now relying heavily on only a small amount of companies to carry your returns over time. And that risk is significantly higher than most investors should ideally take on, unless you're willing to spend a significant amount of time researching, monitoring, and managing a large amount of your investments. Now, like I said, depending on your risk tolerance, that balance can easily change, but for most investors, you should ideally aim for the foundation to be ETFs, and then a handful of your favorite stocks for additional exposure and the opportunity for higher returns without being detrimental to your portfolio. But for some, you may lean more heavily into stocks if you truly understand the risk and you are comfortable with the volatility. In the end, rather than trying to pick the winners like gambling your entire retirement savings away, you need to view it as a system that you are building and truly believe in over time that it will continue in the positive direction. All in all, in the end, diversifying your portfolio along with consistency and discipline, it usually matters much more than trying to find the next Nvidia stock. Now, since you've stayed this long into the video, I have to say, if you are interested to see data on some of the top ETFs that are on the market, I highly recommend checking out our free index fund cheat sheet that we've created at InvestLane that I'll have linked in the description below. And while you're at it, if you want to get started on a new investing platform or even high yield savings account, I'll have direct links below to some of the top options that you could get started with. And please note, at the end of the day, I want you to do what's best for your finances, but do know that depending on the ones you choose to get started with, I may earn a commission for it, which is greatly appreciated. And as always, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notifications button for future content like this.